Hello friends and family, let's talk about scrolling. More to the point, let's talk about infinite scrolling and the huge toll that it has on our screen time. We all scroll, it's just part of our daily lives nowadays. It's built into every major app, and I kind of have a confession to make. I have a big problem with it. If I don't keep a handle on it, I could easily spend like an entire morning scrolling through Instagram and not getting anything done. Scrolling in itself, it's not a problem, right? Even infinite scrolling, I don't think it's inherently evil. Think about like a message app. You can scroll up pretty much indefinitely, but that's fine. It helps you achieve something. No technology is inherently good or bad. It's kind of like how it's used, and the more powerful, the more potential it has to be used for dodgy purposes. When I look at infinite scrolling, I see its power. Like, I don't hate it with a burning passion, but I do feel like it's often applied in some of the most predatory ways imaginable. You're not really satisfying your own needs, you're satisfying the needs of a business that's either selling you something or it's selling you. You know the quote, like, if you're not paying for the product, you are the product. As someone who works in UX, I kind of love the idea behind scrolling. If we think about the design world, the little moments of actually being able to scroll, if we go back to that famous example of Steve Jobs showing the first time that he's interacting with the iPhone.
Well, how do I scroll through my list of artists? How do I do this? I just take my finger and I scroll. That's it. Isn't that cool?
Like, it's a big deal. It was a big deal. We come to expect that natural touch, like being able to press something, drag it, and it just naturally scrolls. So much so that there's some videos of like toddlers trying to swipe on magazines and things like that. Which brings us back to the problem. It's more about how are we actually applying that to? And nowadays, I feel like it's used mostly to get people using apps when they don't really intend to. So today, I want to talk about how doom scrolling works. I want to talk about how it's designed, because I truly believe that just understanding how we're interacting with something can already improve the experience that we have with it. But also, I want to share 3 fixes that I use myself in bringing more intentionality to how I use my phone without having to give up the apps that I actually enjoy. And I'm going to skip the obvious stuff like delete the app or like set the limits for yourself in the app settings, things like that. We've all heard that before. Instead, I really want to focus into the why. I want to focus into the why people doom scroll in the first place, how it works, and how you can battle against it. So quickly, just for context, hi, I'm Kappabyte. I'm an applied psychologist and UX researcher. I study behavior to make software systems more powerful and easy to use, and we do this through UX. And these days I work in high-stakes platforms. Today I'm going to be doing the complete opposite of what I do for a living. I'm going to suggest 3 ways to add friction and reduce the fluidity of how you interact with the apps that are stealing your time. From now on, when I say infinite scrolling, I mean those like For You feeds, the ones where the algorithm-driven recommendations always like brings you more stuff to see or more stuff to watch, and those just go on forever. You know what I mean. Infinite scrolling is, I feel like, to an app what fast food is to food. It's easy to consume, it's not good for us in the long run, and in my opinion it can even be much worse than fast food, because fast food you at least have to drive somewhere and actually get to fast food. There's some intentionality there. The social media apps are just in our pocket, so it's very easy to get into it without even intending to do so. I think that the biggest problem is definitely the time that it takes away from us, like how much time we actually spend scrolling. And I think if we try to define the problem in terms of, okay, what is it that bothers me? The first one, I think, is when you pick up your phone and then like 40 minutes later, you realize that you just lost so much time without even realizing it. Like those major time sucks where you just pick up your phone and the time is gone and you don't even realize what you were doing in the first place. The second one is this micro time sucks. So it's not necessarily that you're scrolling for a long time, but whatever it is you're doing, you just pick up the phone and then you open the app, kind of muscle memory kind of way, and then you start scrolling and you ask yourself like, why am I doing this? And you do that like 20 times a day. So it's just the cumulative effect of picking up your phone so many times during the day. I think this one is especially annoying because it gets into the work that you're actually doing, or like if you're with people, you can pick up your phone and then you realize like, I'm not really in this experience because I picked up my phone. So for you to get back to where you were, there's a lot of context switching. So it just interferes with your life in general. And yeah, at least that was the one that bothered me the most. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit of how we could potentially fight some of these, let's call it designed experiences that aren't that good. Fix number one, I call this, what's my user story? So in UX, we use what we call user stories to define like a user's goal. When you pick up something, when you interact with something, there's something you want to achieve with that, right? And this follows a very simple format as a ... I want to ... so I can ... So let's go back a little bit. Let's picture this journey, right? You're at work and you pick up your phone with the goal of answering a message or whatever it is, and you see the Instagram logo, so you just click it and then you start scrolling, right? Why? Often is because you've been conditioned. Unfortunately, it's like our brains are wired for rewards. If we scroll and we see something we like, we get a little dopamine hit. And that's the same chemical our brain evolved to release when we find food or when we meet a friend, things that take real effort to achieve, right? And when you get that reward with virtually zero effort, just picking up your phone and doing it, your brain wants you to do it again and again. And over time, the unconscious automatic answer to which app should I open? It's not like we just turn into robots and we start doing it overnight. But if we ask ourselves, like when we pick up our phone and we think, which app am I going to open? The automatic answer is going to slowly become like every time the app that makes me feel like the reward kick. So this is the first fix, and it's actually incredibly simple, but I think it can make a big difference. I have been asking myself this. Whenever I pick up my phone and I instinctively open one of these apps, I just pause and I ask myself, what's my user story right now, right? So who am I? What's my goal? Where am I going? Imagine I'm driving to the supermarket. My goal is to get lunch, right? My user story would be, as a hungry person, I want to go to the supermarket so I can get food to have lunch, right? Simple. Now let's try this with the app. As a person at work, so I'm working, I got a notification. I want to open, let's say, TikTok so I can what, right? You'll often find that you don't really have a good reason for picking up your phone. This has happened to me. You're just opening it out of habit. And sometimes you do, and that's totally fine. Like sometimes there's someone stuck in a bank queue and you just want to open Instagram so you can pass the time. And that's totally fine. I think that's valid. I'm fine with that user story because you're being intentional about it. My pro tip to help with this is I try to have an alternative ready. Even in the cases where there's some intentionality there, I kind of get the mindset of, okay, I could be doing this, but I could be doing something else instead, and it would almost always be a better choice. So I've tried having the Kindle app on my phone, and when I do have that impulse, and even the impulse to scroll, because the Kindle app has a virtually endless scroll with the book you're reading, I can ask myself, well, do I want Instagram or do I want Kindle? And well, sometimes I do pick Kindle, and that's a small little win. And I've seen a lot of people say that to try to overcome like this thing of opening the app kind of unconsciously, they resorted to removing the app from the screen that it's usually at. I think that this works, but it only works to a point, because like then you learn the new place where the app is, or you learn like to push the Siri suggestions or whatever it is to select the app or search for it. You just learn new ways to get to it over time. But if you're trying to like replace a habit over another habit, I think it can be quite beneficial if you take if you have the app you usually open, you just replace that with an app that is better for you, or like you're trying to use more. And yeah, the muscle memory is going to open the new app for you, which I think is nice. Again, I think this has an expiration date, but if you're training yourself, I think it's good. Fix number 2, this is actually my favorite, is to build hyper awareness with a timer. There are some studies, and there's one particularly famous by the Cornell University, where people were given self-refilling bowls to eat food. What they found is that people tend to eat a lot more when they have self-refilling bowls than when they're filling it themselves, right? And I feel like infinite scrolling works in a kind of a similar way, where you have infinite content, so you don't really realize how much you're consuming. You only realize that the time has been gone after the fact. So since you're not deliberately choosing how much you're going to consume at a time, that can be a problem. And this is an important point as well, because these apps are usually designed in a way where you can see just a little sliver of the next thing when you're scrolling. Like you see the post you're looking at, and then a little bit of the next one, so that you always feel like you're almost there, so that you keep scrolling, right? The problem isn't just that you want to scroll, is that you aren't really aware of how much you're scrolling. For this one, many people try the app limits, but for me personally, they never really stuck. The notification just kind of annoyed me, and I just ignore it, to be honest. So if the problem I'm trying to solve for myself is a lack of awareness, I'm going to try to solve it with hyper awareness. And the way I thought of doing this is just an experiment. I just started doing this. So I set up an automation using the Shortcuts app on my phone. I think there are definitely Android equivalent versions of this. But now every time I open Instagram or TikTok or whatever other app, a timer automatically starts and displays right here in the dynamic island thing.
Hi, it's me editing the video. So just to show you how to do this automation, you want to go into this shortcuts app and can click the plus sign here in the top, and you can select which app you want to trigger the automation. I selected, for example, when I open Instagram, I start a stopwatch, and I also set it so that's when I close Instagram, the stopwatch is stopped. So just to demonstrate here, when I open Instagram, timer has started, you can see it there. And when I close, it's going to stop and show me for how long I was using it for. So yeah, and if I start again, it's going to start again. And it's going to keep counting. So if I was scrolling, I'm always aware of how long has been.
And this makes it pretty much impossible for me to not be aware of how long I've been scrolling for. I can still use the app in whatever way I want, but I'm acutely, constantly aware of how long I've been in that bottomless bowl. I'm going to be tracking that for my next few weeks. If you're curious to see if this trick actually lowers my screen time, let me know in the comments and I'll share an update. As of right now, I spend 32 minutes on average on Instagram a day. I really hope to get that to like half at least. All right, fix number 3, last one and probably the most important one. These apps exploit something called a variable reward schedule. And this is the most effective way known to science to reinforce a behavior. It's the exact mechanism that makes slot machines so addictive. So let's break it down. If you pull a lever and you never get a reward, you stop pulling. If you pull a lever and you always get a reward, you get used to it and the excitement just fades over time, and eventually like you do it less and less, right? So you'd open the app less. But if you pull a lever and you sometimes get a reward, and especially if you get like rewards of varying quality, your brain just learns that if it persists long enough, then a big reward is coming, and you learn to do it as much as possible so you get the big rewards. So getting some boring posts, then an amazing one, then like a few more boring ones. This is like the perfect recipe to keep you like searching, right? You learn that the next great thing is just one more scroll away. Now, this is the part that kind of gets me angry. The algorithms that power these feeds are machine learning models, right? Their one and only goal is to maximize one metric, so your attention. What's the most optimal way to command attention indefinitely? Say it with me, a variable reward schedule that leads to addiction. So I'm not trying to get into the conspiracy theory territory, of course, but even if no human engineer consciously programs it to be exploitative, the AI kind of learns that the most effective way to achieve the goal of retention is if it gives you like the mechanisms for you to be addicted to the app, right? This is like a goal that you put into the algorithm. So it learns to mix in things that makes you happy, things that makes you angry, because anger definitely drives engagement, things from friends, things from celebrities, all to create like the maximum variability and keep you like as hooked as possible. So the third fix is to actively reclaim your feed whenever possible. But I have been noticing that more and more apps are like designing experiences around not allowing you to do this, or at least allowing you to do this in ways that are very, very unoptimal. If we look at Instagram, for example, you can switch between the chronological feed of only people you follow. But if you look at how they designed it, you have to tap the logo, then you select following, then it takes you to this weird like parallel version of the app. The design practically screams like, go back, you're not supposed to be here. So my fix is not going to be to just use that feature, because I know like at least for, for most of social media, it's going to make the experience so bad that you're not going to use it. The fix I want to suggest is be critical. Go through the accounts you follow, curate your intention. I know we're going to be using algorithms for a long time. It's probably the best way that these apps are going to work. That's fine. But what I've been trying to do is to actively unfollow accounts that don't add value. I've been muting accounts I don't want to unfollow. I've been doing this a lot with my feed. Whenever I see a post that is clearly tailored towards making me angry, for example, I either click like more options, not interested, or just unfollow the account completely. It's very important that we train the algorithm that's being used on us to add the value that we want from the app, not what it thinks will keep you addicted. I suggest that we use the not interested button quite aggressively. This is an active, ongoing battle to make the feed serve you, not the other way around, but this is a bit nuanced. Products are designed to solve problems. The scroll is designed to put a world of information at your fingertips, quite literally, but it's very, very important that we keep a critical eye on how these designs are being used imposed on us. We have to learn to protect our own attention. And I truly believe that protecting ourselves starts with just understanding how it all works. So I really hope this video is useful. If you learned something new, or if you're going to try one of these fixes, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to continue the discussion, and I'm very grateful if you watched until now. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.